We protected those jobs. Would Nigel Farage have done the same? Absolutely not. And that's the question you have to ask about Nigel Farage. And he gave the answer on Tuesday. A resounding no. He set out economic plans that contained billions upon billions of completely unfunded spending. Can you trust him? Can you trust him with your future? Can you trust him with your jobs? Can you trust him with your mortgages, your pensions, your bills?
Nigel Farage's economic plans would crash the economy, just like Liz Truss did. Keir Starmer's bold claim isn't just rhetoric. He's got warnings from Treasury experts to back him up. But are these claims justified? Let's unravel the story. £80 billion. That's the staggering figure attached to Nigel Farage's list of unfunded promises, according to Labour. It's a number that Darren Jones, Labour's chair of the Business and Trade Select Committee, didn't hesitate to call out. Jones has warned that Farage may be walking the same dangerous fiscal tightrope as Liz Truss. Bold on rhetoric, but flimsy when it comes to hard numbers. But where is this all coming from, and how did we get here?
He set out economic plans that contained billions upon billions of completely unfunded spending. Precisely the sort of irresponsible splurge. Now, in opposition, we said that she would crash the economy and leave you to pick up the bill. And we were right. And we were elected to fix that mess that sent your mortgage costs, your bills, and the cost of living through the roof. It's Liz Truss all over again.
Reform UK, Farage's current political project, has been steadily carving out its space in the political arena. With growing traction in local elections and a clear strategy to siphon off disillusioned Tory voters, they've positioned themselves as the populist answer to Britain's political malaise. Labour, recognising the potential threat, has started treating the party as more than just background noise. Farage's rallying cries for tax cuts across the board and increased public spending might sound good to those fed up with austerity, but to economists, they're ringing alarm bells. Looking back at the economic chaos of 2022, the comparison to Truss's brief but catastrophic time as Prime Minister isn't hard to draw. Her unfunded tax cuts triggered a chain reaction. Borrowing costs surged, the pound tumbled, and mortgage rates shot through the roof. Within weeks, the mini-budget turned households into collateral damage, with homeowners facing higher bills and a housing market under strain. Treasury insiders have warned that reckless fiscal manoeuvres like these don't stay contained.
Now in government, we're once again fighting the same fantasy, this time from Farage. The same bet, in the same casino, because he said that the Liz Truss budget, in his view, was the best since 1986. That shows his judgment. It shows what he'd do. You can spend tens of billions of pounds on tax cuts without a proper way of paying for it. Using your family finances, your mortgages, your bills as the gambling chip on his mad experiment.
They unravel, creating ripple effects that destabilise markets far beyond Britain. Farage might argue his plans offer economic freedom, but with no funding framework to support them. Critics suggest they're a gamble with the nation's stability. Tax cuts alongside heavier spending without a viable way to pay for them risks setting off the same domino effect. You don't need to be a financial expert to see the pattern. Bold promises, big numbers, and no cushion when it all falls apart. Starmer's comparison here isn't just political gamesmanship. The Truss debacle proved how quickly unfunded policies can spiral, and Labour's framing sends a clear message. The consequences of Farage's promises might not just be theoretical. They could very well hit ordinary families the hardest once again. Keir Starmer's decision to take Reform UK head-on isn't just a reaction to Nigel Farage's rhetoric, it's a carefully calculated strategy. Reform UK's growing presence in local elections has made it impossible for Labour to turn a blind eye. In key areas like Warrington North, they've started making significant inroads, even outperforming Labour in some cases.
Labour's plan for change has stabilised the economy. Growth in our economy is at the fastest rate in the G7 this year. 4 cuts in interest rates. That means mortgages coming down. I know what it's like when your family can't pay the bills, when you fear the postman and the bills that may be brought. And I know how much work we have to do. And a pay boost for 3.5 million low-paid workers. And unlike Nigel Farage, I know what it's like growing up in a cost of living crisis.
Polling data only reinforces the concern. If Reform UK continues to siphon votes from both disillusioned Conservatives and traditional Labour supporters, it could upset the balance in constituencies crucial for Starmer's ambitions in the next general election. This explains why Starmer has elevated Farage to a position that some might find surprising. By locking in on him as a central figure of attack, Labour has made it clear they view Reform UK as more than just a fringe player. But this approach is risky. Historically, parties that shine a spotlight on smaller challengers often end up amplifying their platforms. The question here is whether Labour can effectively reframe Farage's narrative before the exposure backfires. It's a move Starmer seems willing to gamble on, betting that voters won't be drawn in once they see the supposed dangers of his economic vision.
I mean, this is the man who said that Jaguar Land Rover deserve, his word, to go bust. But unlike Nigel Farage, I've been to see the workers at JLR several times over, particularly recently. And I know what those jobs mean for the workforce themselves, for their families and their community. So when they needed support earlier this year, when we had to fight for their jobs and make a deal with the United States, I protected those jobs because I had them in my mind's eye.
Starmer's main line of attack is focused on tying Farage's economic proposals to Liz Truss's infamous mini-budget fiasco. The comparison is powerful, especially for voters who remember the chaos of late 2022. By linking Farage's unfunded promises to Truss's well-documented failures, Labour positions itself as the responsible, stable choice in a political field riddled with uncertainty. Starmer isn't just trying to discredit Farage, he's using this rhetoric to portray Labour as the only safe pair of hands for the economy. There's also an emotional weight to this tactic. Connecting Farage to economic risks strikes a chord with working-class voters worried about rising costs and financial stability. Labour's ultimate goal here is bigger than Reform UK. They want to frame themselves as the sole viable alternative to the Conservatives. Farage, meanwhile, becomes a symbol of the recklessness they urge voters to leave behind. Nigel Farage's economic promises might sound like the shake-up some voters crave, but history has shown where unfunded commitments can lead. Darren Jones, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, didn't mince words when he labelled such promises as a threat to family finances. He drew a sharp parallel to the economic turmoil of Liz Truss's government, where interest rates surged and mortgage payments skyrocketed under the weight of careless fiscal choices. As tempting as sweeping tax cuts and big spending plans may seem, it's crucial to ask, at what cost? The financial future of ordinary families may very well hang in the balance,